Welcome to the Krinzman Property Playbook, where we dive deep into the heart of South Florida's real estate scene. I'm your host, Matthew Krinzman, here to guide you through the strategies, insights, and community connections that make buying and selling real estate a science. If you're looking to move beyond the basics, build trusted relationships, and grow your understanding of this competitive market, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll be bringing on local pros, from attorneys to contractors, to give you the inside scoop on what it really takes to succeed in real estate. So whether you're an investor, buyer, or just curious about the market, let's kick things off and get you one step closer to your real estate goals. Welcome to the Playbook. And today, Marc is local, but Marc provides a service that I think that all of us who are involved, especially on the property management side or the rental side of real estate, provides a very valuable tool and resource for those of us. So, Marc, I always like to know, have my guests, tell us a little bit about their story. Of course, I know you well, but those of us out there that are listening or watching this don't know you or don't know who you are. Tell us who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Matthew, for having me on today. I own a company called Crossroads Investigations. I'm from Buffalo, New York. Go Bills. I served in the White House for 3 years. I served in the CIA after that. I have lived in Miami for almost 20 years. Crossroads Investigations does full service private investigation, everything from surveillance for insurance defense, infidelity, background reports. We find people, we find bank accounts, we find assets, we do jury vetting, international investigations, deep dive due diligence, employment screening, and of course, tenant screening.
Okay. Yeah. The background that you do here, your company, your investigative services really covers a lot of things that, like you just mentioned, background checks, fidelity or infidelity. So you have people, you have people on staff, or people who can follow someone who is suspected of not being, what's the word I'm looking? Fidelis? Is that the word?
But being faithful.
Faithful, right.
Yeah, we are an agency. So I would say 97% of all private investigation agencies are a guy in his car, usually
a guy in his car.
Yeah, retired law enforcement officer. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But we are a full service agency. I have staff. We have a team of contractors. We have field teams, not only in Florida, but all over the country. We have a network of agents even overseas. So we can cover really anything, anywhere. And it's not me. I have case managers who interface with our clients, maintain the quality control. So it's a white glove service agency.
You're the one who started the company. So how long ago did you start it?
Started Crossroads in 2008.
That's amazing. That's that long ago already.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, we've known each other for quite a while, so that's
longer than that.
Yeah, longer than that. I think I met you when you got to Miami. So and you've been here for a while. Before we get into, the background checks as it applies to, the tenant screenings, but you also do a lot of your client type of work.
Yeah, that's really important, especially with overseas partners that our clients may have. They need to show that they've done their due diligence. Have they checked the criminal records in the home country? Have they checked Interpol, FBI Most Wanted? What is the reputation of someone, either overseas or even in the United States? Are they involved in litigation? Have they sued their old ex-partners? Have their ex-partners sued them?
Right.
Have they declared bankruptcy before? All of those things are part of our due diligence service.
And I think that's also something that's important outside of, in real estate, especially those who are doing partnerships on real estate deals, development deals in real estate, because there's a lot, obviously South Florida itself, we attract a lot of foreign investors. And also, we are also a capital of scams as well, scammers. And it's always good. Whoever I think is going to invest in a real estate project here should know who they're dealing with, who that developer is or who that person who's raising the funds to do the deal and put it together. And I think, just for that peace of mind, knowing, all right, I'm going to give you a big chunk of change, but hopefully the person I'm doing business with will not abscond or run off with that money. And then I'm kind of out of it. We've lost some money here, and unfortunately now the money's gone and your investment's gone. So I think that's also a factor in real estate, especially on the development side and investment side, that I don't know if a lot of people are taking advantage of that piece of due diligence for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, when I speak a lot around town to different law firms and law sections, and I always start off by saying that Florida, and really South Florida, Miami, is a sunny place for shady people.
That's our moniker. That's our nickname. Unfortunately, it's a nickname or a way to describe South Florida. It's been earned, unfortunately. It's been
unfortunately. Keeps me busy.
Right.
But, you really hit on something that is important. When we do research on someone, it's an added expense.
Right.
People don't always view it as a necessity. And I think our best clients, unfortunately, are the ones who have been taken advantage of in the past. And they've learned from their experience that you have to do your homework ahead of time. You can't just trust someone. And I'll say something more about that. There's motivations and vulnerabilities.
Of course.
And when someone gets referred to you as a business partner, as a nanny, they may have the best references in the world.
Right.
If they are financially vulnerable, they are motivated to do something they wouldn't otherwise do. So they may be a good person, but if they have access to your checkbook, to your money, to your things, and they have credit card debt or they're facing severe financial distress, you need to go into that eyes wide open.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. You said, is that from your former background when you were working in government and working, for CIA and doing investigations and running background on people? That what you just said there about vulnerabilities, people being vulnerable, either being because it's financial or they've been compromised in another way. That's part of your background history, right? That was something that you learned from what you did before, right?
Yeah, that comes from the intelligence community world.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, that's important. So let's now, as far as tenant screening and what do you offer there? How does I or someone else as a landlord can come to you? I have a tenant about to move in, or actually real estate agents too, because sometimes we are asked to run the background checks for our clients who own property or we're renting them out. So how does that all come together? What do you do there?
It's really important for your listeners to understand that when they do a background check for tenant screening, it has to be the right report.
Okay.
And that report is called an FCRA compliant report, Fair Credit Reporting Act. Regardless of you're running credit or not, although hopefully your landlord clients are running credit. FCRA background reports are very specific. They require consent. They look back at criminal records only 7 years. They only look at convictions. So if someone's been arrested but gone through pretrial diversion, or the charges have been dropped, or the records have been sealed or expunged, they do not show in an FCRA report.
Right.
Bankruptcy records only go back 10 years. This is opposite of other background reports that you can run online or order through us that do not require consent and go back further with criminal records, look at non-convictions. The problem is when your tenant finds out that a background check has been used to make a decision, they have the right to see that report used to make the decision.
Interesting.
If the report is not FCRA compliant, they can sue you.
Okay, that's a little bit. Okay, so that's really good information you're giving us there. That if I get a report that is, well, you say is not Fair Credit Reporting Act, beyond that was not done that under those terms, and I or another landlord, use or property manager use that as a basis to deny tenancy, the potential tenant can say, well, how did you obtain all that? They have a right to say, hey, how did you get that information? Where did that come from?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if they feel that it would be an invasion of privacy, is that what it is?
The law protects them. It has to be an FCRA report. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not, even a non-FCRA report is not necessarily an invasion of privacy because these are all public records.
Right.
It's just what information can you use to make that decision?
Okay. So this is something I've read about, I've heard about. There's some, I don't know if there's some states where they don't even allow a landlord or a property manager or management company to even use a conviction or evictions as a basis to deny tenancy at this point.
That's right. It's called block the box, I believe.
Block the box?
Yeah,
Okay.
Which means they do not, I think it's what it's called. They are not allowed to look at the criminal background box, that section of the report. Yeah, it is state by state. That's why it's very important to use an FCRA compliant report. We ask which state is the subject living in, but ultimately it is up to the client to ensure with their attorney that they're not breaking the law. We're not lawyers.
Right, you're not a lawyer, nor am I. You know, as a real estate agent, I'm definitely not an attorney or a lawyer. But you're right. Yeah, you definitely would have to seek the advice of counsel. I guess that would be the proper terminology. But that's good to know that when you run those reports, you're asking what state that report's going to be for or where they're from. That way, whoever's ordering it, they're being compliant. They're within the compliance.
They should still check with their attorney because I believe we're still going to run those records regardless. So they need to check. They need to make sure. Yeah.
Got it. So it's really onto the impetus or make sure that they're in compliance is again falls onto the person who's requesting the report or the property manager, and have them confer with an attorney just to make sure.
And that's true really for almost any investigation that we do.
Oh yeah.
We are always advising our clients, check with your attorney before you spend money on a private investigator. And it's, way beyond tenant screening. We get people calling in an emotional state all the time, and they're ready to throw money at a problem without realizing it may not help them in court. So, I really think it's incumbent upon everybody to have a good attorney and feel free to be able to have that relationship with the attorney to ask them these questions to make sure that they're spending their money wisely.
Right. It's like when a lot of times in the real estate, and especially on the tenants, on leasing, for residential property, most of the time the landlord or the owners, really all they care about is the credit. What's the credit score? And I don't know if the credit score is always gives you a true full picture of who the person is that's about to occupy or pay you a rental for your apartment or your home or whatever it is. Because it's only part of the picture, but a lot of them just rely on that, and that's all they go by, and that's all they care about. It's like, hey, they have good credit. That's all that matters to them. So can you just run a credit report, for that?
We do run credit. It always comes with the criminal background.
Oh, it does.
Report.
Okay.
They can also add on evictions, bankruptcies, liens. We do have clients who only look at the credit score. We do provide the credit score. But I think you make an excellent point is you have to look under that, but behind that credit score. Is there a trend here? And I'll give you some examples.
Okay.
When we run credit, we're not only running the credit score, we're showing also the trade lines. And it's showing up to date, what's current, and what's in collection.
Right.
And how much is in collection? And is there a trend here? Have they had many credit cards in and out of collection for years? Is it a medical collection or an education collection? Or do they owe creditors actual money?
Right.
And I'll give you an analogy with criminal background checks. When we see someone with a DUI, one DUI is different than 3 DUIs.
True.
We're looking at trends. Someone with sexual predator.
That's a great point. I was thinking just going to bring that up. Okay, that's a good point you're bringing up.
Sexual predator designation. We had a case. We looked into it. It turns out it happened when the subject was 17 and his girlfriend was 16. And the girl's father pressed charges, and now he's labeled as a sexual predator. We need to go behind the numbers, behind the data to see what's really going on here. Bankruptcies. How about bankruptcies? So anyone who had bankruptcy in 2010, they're one of millions and millions.
Many.
But are they declaring bankruptcy every 7 years when they're allowed to? That's a trend.
Yeah, well, the financial crisis of 2008 until through 2012, there was bankruptcies, there was foreclosures, and things may have been just out of people's control because they lost jobs or they lost their finances. So you're right. Sometimes you have to go behind just the credit report, but you have to see, like you said, if there's a trend. Things happen. People get in trouble. They have financial strain. They have financial issues, and it's out of control. They lost their job or something like that. But since, let's say, 2010, they've been working. They're sound now. So it's just you have to see where they were and where they are now. I suppose that would be one way of judging how to. So something I find, there's inefficiencies in the credit and the background checks for tenants, and also for when someone's applying to purchase a property, and especially with an HOA or the condos. The condos are really where it gets bogged down. And what always strikes me is, especially when it's a condominium, either doing on the rental side or on the purchase side, they do you have to fill out the application, you have to fill out all the background information. And it says it'll take us 2 weeks or 30 days to process your background. I am pretty sure it does not take 2 weeks or 30 days to do. And so it kind of makes the process inefficient, because you're waiting that time to get an answer from the condo association, either to your tenancy or to your being able to purchase the condo, the property, or even a house, depending on where it is. It could delay the whole transaction, and you're up in a limbo because, like, I don't know if I'm going to be approved for whatever reasons they may have. But for the most part, people get approved, but it just seems like it shouldn't take that long. So how long does it really take?
Well, the FCRA requires a manual verification of records.
Okay.
So it is not instantaneous. Our reports can take anywhere from, I would say, 2 to 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's because we are verifying the records to make sure that someone is not being accused of something inaccurately.
Okay. And how just about the basic one? A basic, one that's just, hey, credit and your credit score, your credit report, how long that takes?
Credit is instant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And doing background checks, because a lot of the associations will say, all right, we need to give you references. And that, I use you as a reference when I bought my place, and
you got it anyway. So
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks for putting in a good word. I hope you did. But that took 30 days. Which is ridiculous in my opinion. I don't know why it should take that long, but let's say you're contracted by an owner or by a rental property management company to do background check. It's like, just checking references and things like that. How long would that normally take? Is there a way to make it more efficient?
That can be done concurrently as a criminal record. Okay. So it should not add to the time, the length of time for the report.
Do you work, have you guys worked with bigger rental communities or condo associations, management companies on that side at all?
Honestly, we have not, because we are a premium white glove service. So, we're not a volume-based company.
Right.
We're a quality-based company. Our FCRA reports are not expensive, but they're not the cheapest in the market either. We are reading those reports for our clients and giving them a readout. What is saying, where our system is really advanced, checking records. We go above and beyond, not only criminal, but all those national, Interpol, FBI Most Wanted, sexual predator, all of those things. And so that's why we don't do a lot of clients that have thousands of reports, although we would love to.
I'm sure you would. Yeah. It's a great source of business, just beyond just obviously the income that would derive from it, but it's just really, if you could provide to make it a more efficient process. Like I said, the struggle for, you'll talk to plenty of other real estate agents that around us will always say that the condo association process of application takes way, way too long to process. Yeah. So if there's a way to make it more efficient, I think that would be just a godsend. I can't think of another way to describe it. It would be a godsend to the.
I think that may be a reason why maybe clients do come to us, is because we are efficient.
Yeah. You want to be efficient in this business. It's time. I guess it's the one thing most real estate agents, I'm sure even the tenants or the buyers of condo, who's buying a property and they're going through the application process, it's the waiting part. That's really is the part that no one likes. And if they can shorten that up, it'll just make, I think, you get to the closing, you can get occupancy sooner, or you have to move on, or you're moving in, that way you're not sitting on waiting for an answer for 30 days, which.
Right. And, we will do that for our clients because the credit is instant. We will, if the client needs to know the credit right away, we'll tell them what's going on with the credit while we're waiting for the criminal records, where the bigger companies will not do that.
Right. A lot of times I've seen applications where, and you talk about the criminal records, where it doesn't come up a lot, but it does come up sometimes where they say, all right, you need to go take this form to the local sheriff's office and have this processed by them.
Yeah.
And which, again, it's a bit of an inconvenience because you're taking time out of your day to do it. But would your reports, is that similar to what's like when we go to the sheriff's office to get a criminal background check, or report?
No, I would say that's different because there are some landlords and some property management companies that require that official record.
Got it.
Yeah. We can do records retrieval. So if a subject has been arrested and they need to get their actual record from the police department or the court, that is something that we do all the time.
Understood.
And we do that a lot. For example, in our legal cases, our lawyer clients do not take a Crossroads Investigations background report to the judge. We identify the records and find them and provide them to the client to present to the judge.
Understood. That's interesting. I just had a train of thought. It'll come back to me, but any interesting stories or, where you've helped the landlord, the property owners, the landlords, owners in any way that's like, oh, hey, look, we just saved you a lot of money. We saved you a lot of headache.
Yeah, I think sometimes our reports, we have these add-ons, and evictions and bankruptcies are a big one. So, I think a landlord is bereft if they are not checking eviction records. And we certainly have seen that before. Do you really want to lease to someone who's been continuously evicted from their previous?
Definitely not. No, that's a cost.
And so, we've seen that many times. We've done that many times. Do you want someone who's been arrested for assault multiple times? How will your other tenants feel about that? So we've seen that many times as well. And, so when we see that assault or murder or sexual assault, whatever, we will help our clients if they ask us to go read those records, find out what happened, get the police report. We provide that context. Sometimes it falls the other way. Sometimes it shows that it's not as bad as it sounds, but we need to.
Right.
But yeah.
You mentioned that you do a lot of the insurance casework, and there's some in property owners, they have liabilities that things can come up. Like you mentioned, if you have a tenant who's violent or has been, or has committed assault on your property, or someone, let's say, even slipped and fell on your property, how can you help that owner of the property, either prove it didn't, that they're not responsible because, it's a big insurance liability. You got court, you're going to court, you're going to get sued. How can you help them as a property owner, either mitigate the costs of that suit or maybe have it tossed?
Yeah. So, first of all, we're not camera people, but of course I would recommend having cameras outside the properties and having that video stored in the cloud. We had a case once where a DVR was stolen as part of a crime. So it's important to have the video stored in the cloud and to have it saved long enough so if something happens, the video is still available. But we do a lot of insurance defense surveillance. We do it for some of the biggest companies in the country: Publix, Winn-Dixie, Walmart, Starbucks, Skechers, the cruise lines, the airlines, all over the country. And what happens is the insurance companies' algorithms flag these cases, and they give us usually 3 to 5 days to follow people to see, are they really hurt? And we do dozens of these cases a day all over the country. And many times people are being fraudulent. Even if they're hurt, they're being stubborn and not listening to doctors' orders and doing things they shouldn't be doing. This can reduce the claim by 6 figures. It happens all the time. Our hit rate is through the roof of finding people either working out, doing yard work, painting, things they shouldn't be doing if they've claimed an injury.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a lot of times, especially you're a property owner, someone slipped and fell on your property. Now you're liable to that. There's liability issues that are come up from that. You want to, as a property owner, you want to mitigate those costs or that suit, those costs of the suit as much as possible. And like you said, if you find someone who's a faker, great. That's score one for the good guys. But if someone got legitimately hurt, okay, then you've done your due diligence, you've done the work. Hey, look, they are really injured. We figure it out. At least you help them with that information to see if there's a person's faking or it's real. And again, South Florida, we have a lot of scammers.
That may be part of the insurance defense investigation is, has this person pulled this before? Have they made these claims before?
And there's a good chance in Florida that they have. Unfortunately, it's just, that's just the nature, like you said, it's a sunny place with shady people. Yeah. What is, just out of curiosity, what is a typical tenant background report? What do you got? What do you charge for that normally?
Yeah, so the base rate for the criminal is $75. We have to add $20 for each additional county the person has lived in the past 7 years. A credit add-on is $50.
Okay.
And I think the bankruptcy, evictions, and liens add-on are together one fee of $50.
Got it. And how does one order that? Do you have a portal that they go on to, or do you have to call?
We do. We go to our website, which we have here behind me, xinvestigations.com/screening. Or we're happy to send you the link as well. And it's a form that you fill out with your information, the subject's name and email address, and you pay right on that form. And then once we receive that form, we will send your candidate a consent link to fill out their personal identifiable information, their PII,
to have
on a secure portal.
To have the person they're going to be screening, that's going to be screened, have them consent to it. As a landlord, can put the information in, but it's like, hey, now you need to sign off on it and get it done. Okay.
And and when you do it that way, there's room for errors. If the candidate is giving the landlord their social security number, their date of birth, their address, the spelling of their name, and then the landlord is then going to some portal to type it in, there's going to be mistakes. The way we do it is the candidate themselves enter their own personal information.
Makes sense.
To ensure accuracy.
Right. Out of curiosity, have you ever used your services for background checks and, have ever been used like for lenders, for a lender that's doing mortgages? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. We have some very large lender clients around the country, actually throughout North America, that do high risk loans. And for that, you do not need consent except for credit. Credit, you always need consent.
Right.
Always. But we can check criminal, bankruptcy, liens, judgments, foreclosures, evictions, all of those without consent. And we do those for the lenders all day long.
So that's like helping with the underwriting side of the loan or the deal.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you do the lending, you've been called in to, like, on anyone who's doing a big real estate deal, any work on those type of deals, something like that, where they're putting a deal together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we do verification. We do asset searches. We see how leveraged a person is. Do they, and this is another thing that I know you see, Matthew, all the time in South Florida, is the illusion of wealth. Right?
So, I'm laughing because that's so true. Yeah.
So they may be driving a Lamborghini or a Maserati, but it's financed. They may live in a right.
They may rent in it. Yeah.
They may have a $4 million house, but the mortgage is $3.9 million. So they may have a very lavish lifestyle, but they have a 6-figure tax lien against them. So, we see this all the time.
I was laughing so hard because that's South Florida in a nutshell. There's always those who are, driving, like you said, the Lamborghinis, but they're, they may have rented it. It's like, just look at Instagram, and they look at social media. By the way, you guys go back and check people's social media and stuff like that?
Yeah. Not for tenant and employment screening.
Okay.
But for any other case, any investigation starts online, always.
See what their footprint is on there. See what they're doing on social media. Yeah. If they're flashing cash or they're flashing, hey, this is where I'm living. But then you find out, no, that's not where they live. They don't live there. No, they live in, somewhere else in another neighborhood, in another house, and it's not them. And I mean, obviously, social media gives an illusion.
And, that's also good for sometimes we catch them with insurance fraud right on social media, doing things doing. And the social media companies, they update their terms of service at least twice a year, if not more. Meaning that people may be posting on social media believing that what they're posting is private,
but it's not.
Their default privacy settings have been reset. So I always recommend to everybody to check your social media from a non-friend's phone or computer. See what your social media looks like. Make sure you're not sharing information that you're not meaning to share.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good info. If you don't want to be caught, don't be doing it.
Sure.
Don't post it. Don't post it to Instagram or TikTok. Don't. That's for sure.
And we're relentless, Matthew. We don't just look at our subjects' social media. We're looking at their close friends, their family. We're trying to find pictures of their subjects else on other people's social media.
Wow.
So we go down deep rabbit holes when we're given the free rein to do so.
Just out of curiosity, with the advent of AI becoming a tool that's being used more and more in daily life. I mean, I see it just on my own side of business, the real estate side, I'm accessing AI a lot sometimes for looking for an answer or looking for some research or help me craft a email or a description or things like that. Are you using AI in any way?
Yeah. And, and one thing about AI I'll say is, and only because every investigator conference I've been going to, it has AI segments in it. So we're learning more about it.
Sure. That's every real estate thing is AI.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
My understanding is if you pay the $20 a month for ChatGPT, you are sandboxing your interactions with your AI with ChatGPT.
So you're teaching it.
Well, no, but you're protecting the data. So if you don't pay the $20 a month, ChatGPT has freer access to your interactions.
Okay, that's good news. That's good information because I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
That by paying that subscription charge every month or yearly, that the data is now being protected.
That's right. You're securing the information. So, we mostly deal with open source information, OSINTs is what we call it. A lot of things investigators do is saving our clients time. So we are using AI in-house more for marketing purposes. Nothing beats, a trained and licensed private investigator.
So the human factor, is still important. You're telling me it cannot be replaced. It's irreplaceable for now. I mean, I've seen Terminator. I've seen the movie, all three. Actually, just a few more. I think just 4 or 5, whatever. But I kind of stopped after 3. We've seen it. It could get smart. I mean, like, when I see what it does now, I'm always blown away. I'm getting like, wow, it's crazy. But yeah, until I guess AI knows how to mimic human interaction or human emotions, that's us humans have that. We have that advantage still.
Sure.
Right.
There is something that we're experimenting with a little bit is we subscribe to every single database available to our industry. So we spend over 50,000 a year in data.
Wow.
So, you cannot run a background report, a non-FCRA background report on someone and expect to get all the information. All these databases have overlapping information. So one thing we're playing with is uploading 4 or 5 background reports from different sources on a subject and having AI help us call out the repetitive information and look for unique data.
You prompt it to remove anything that's repetitive or duplications. Right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Makes it more efficient. Saves time when you're creating a summary of what it is. Just one more thing before we close up. A lot of times you see people with similar names.
Yeah.
And that pops up on reports. I've seen that. Look, I've seen it also because it pops up when we're doing closings and you see it on title, and title commitment will come back. Hey, there's this person, Frank Smith, but there's like 16 like Frank J. Smith and Frank A. Smith. Is this the same? And title will say, is this the same person? Because they have a lawsuit or they have a tax lien or they have something that's popping up. How do you work? How do you deal with that?
Really good question. Because of the security protocols that we have gone through here at Crossroads, we have access to a lot of sensitive information, including social security numbers. When we run a report, we're finding that social security number to ensure that we're looking at the right person. When we look at criminal records, we're looking at match indicators, things like date of birth, address, correlation to that social security number.
Right.
Federal databases, for example, bankruptcies, are name-only searches. So here, because of that, it's not by social security number or date of birth. So there's more likely possibility for errors. So we have to go and look. Okay, this person, this Frank Smith had bankruptcy in Oklahoma. Has our Frank Smith ever lived in Oklahoma?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I just had this come up when a closing about a month or so ago, and title was showing us, and I was like, the seller was in California, and and they had a similar name. There was cases here in Florida, but they had they basically had to sign an affidavit saying, hey, this is not me. At the end of the day, but it kind of gummed up and slowed it down for about a day, because it was like titles like, well, we're not going to issue policy in title insurance because there's so many similar, all these names are popping up until we get a clarification. So, it sometimes slows down the process. So in closing, and just to wrap it up, what are any good words of advice that you have for property owners and people in real estate when it comes to tenant background screening, or who I'm doing business with in real estate?
Yeah, just don't skip out at it. Don't skimp on it. It's an investment to protect.
Absolutely.
It's an investment to protect yourself, you know? So always happy to talk to any of your listeners, present different options, but the most important thing is just do it. You have to do it.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it's like, hey, this is an asset. You want to protect it. I always tell people, especially like, when you're doing inspections and they're like, well, the inspector costs this much. I'm like, so what? You're paying a lot of money for this home or this property.
Right.
Why? Don't skimp out on this. This is not the time. I mean, when you buy the place and you own the place, all right, buy cheaper light bulbs or something like that, but not on an inspection report. You want the right person to do the job for you. You want, like you said something like, it's quality over quantity. You want the quality. That's what you need. That's what you want. You want good advice. You want people on your side who are giving you good information. You can make your decision. You still are free to make your own decisions, but at least you had the information in front of you, right? All right. So how, other than Crossroads Investigations, xinvestigations.com, how can they find you? Or find the company?
Yeah, we're xinvestigations.com. Our team email is info@xinvestigations.com. That's how you reach me and all of my case managers. We have a number, 866-976-2371. And like I said, we offer white glove service, and we're happy to help. And also, Matthew, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity. I know your listeners know, but you are a very well-known and well-respected realtor.
Stop. You're making me blush. I think I did get red. So that's not the shirt. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And again, congratulations on being open since 2008, man. I can't believe it's been that long. It blows my mind, right? Oh my God. We're getting old. Just kidding. But I remember when you started. I do remember it, and you decided you're going to go on your own. And I'm like, all right, good for you. It's probably been the best move of your life, right?
Worked out, thank God, but it was scary at first.
Yeah, it did work out. It's good. Delivering quality, delivering good service is how you stay in business and how you grow the business. And I think that applies to everything, every service, every professional who's listening or watching this. This is how you grow. This is how you succeed. This is how you maintain the relationships with the people you've done business with, is by providing excellent service, and also being on some level being accountable, but at least being the service that you deliver. Marc, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Even though we know each other, we see each other a lot, but this was a different venue for us to have a conversation with, and with each other, and talk about business. So again, thank you again for coming on, and look forward to getting this podcast up in the next, whenever it gets up there, and hopefully get some good views.
Great.
Thanks again.
Matthew. Appreciate it.
That's it for today's episode of the Krinzman Property Playbook. I hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel inspired to take your next steps in the real estate game. If you're ready to make a move or need expert guidance, let's connect. Whether you're buying, selling, or looking to invest, I'm here to help you navigate the South Florida market with confidence. You can reach out to me directly through my website or on social media. Let's get the conversation started and make your real estate goals a reality. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on the Krinzman Property Playbook.